Hey everybody, it's Tim Brahim with Performance Experts Coaching and Leadership 360 with another business and life tip for you. And today I have a special guest with me, Dan Kablawi with Leader One Mortgage out of Tennessee. Dan has been in the mortgage business for 21 years tomorrow. So happy anniversary tomorrow, Dan. And he's been a branch manager and a great loan originator in his career and is a heck of a teacher and somebody who I've gotten to know really well in the last 5 years. He was in our very first Leadership 360 group, which shockingly was over 5 years ago now. Dan's funded as many as 313 loans in 1 year. So he's certainly credible and knowledgeable on many fronts. So Dan, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And my question for you is really simple. I know one of the keys and one of the things you're passionate about and believe in is presentation. And you've managed to develop a presentation that has you hitting a very high batting average with a very high conversion ratio and really kind of de-emphasizes the commodity that's the interest rate and puts more of the emphasis on the important issues, which is, educating the client and fiscal literacy and things of that nature. So tell us a little bit about your secret to success in that area.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And thanks for having me. The initial meeting that I have with clients, the reason I've been able to have such a great conversion ratio is because I do de-emphasize rate, and I really focus on connecting with my clients initially. And there's a few ways I go about doing that. The first of which is I talk about their favorite subject when I first meet them, which is usually themselves. I ask them, what their hobbies are, how many kids they've got, what their family's like, about their pets, whatever comes up. And then I usually try to find some common ground with them there. Usually puts people at ease because they're coming in, and a lot of times, they can feel intimidated. They can feel some anxiety about making this big purchase. And at the same time, a lot of people don't like being sold. So I try to create an atmosphere where that's really not what's going on. Rates, in my opinion, are often the last thing that I want to talk about them initially, but it's going to come up at some point during our meeting. So when we do have the discussion about rate, I usually try to explain to them that in order to quote them a rate, I have to know a number of things about them. That if they're searching online and looking at rates, or somebody's already quoted them a rate, unless there's certain things they've already found out about them, the rate's probably not going to be accurate. So I explain to them how rates are quoted, and it usually puts them even more at ease and gets them to understand it's not just a question of calling around and asking people what their rates are. I then ask questions about what they want with regard to their mortgage, and this one usually they're surprised to get. I ask, what would your ideal scenario be for a mortgage? What would you like to see? And sometimes we joke, they say lowest rate, lowest closing cost. I'm like, all right, aside from all that, what's it going to look like to you? And that really usually gets people to open up. And once they describe that, I give them choices. And this is really the number one thing I think that helps me convert people on the first meeting is I give them choices. Now, if you're really good in this business, you already know what's the best thing for them, usually within a short time for meeting them. But giving them choices, offering them more than one choice, when you make people feel like they're choosing what they want, they don't feel sold. They feel like they're making their own selection as to what's best for them. So I always try to give them choices and give them the feeling that they made the choice, even though in the end, usually they're going to go the route that I expected them to go in the first place. And then I try to get excited with them. I try to create a feeling that we're a team now. And that we're working towards the same goal and that we're going to be on this journey together. And then I start talking about what that journey is going to be like. And then I kind of brag about all the wonderful systems we have and what a great team I have and who will be contacting them and so on and so forth. So usually once we get that far, they're not going to shop anymore after that.
Now, when you say that you give them choices, do you give them those choices in writing in the form of some type of software that you use, or how do you outline the options for them so then they can zero in and make an intelligent decision?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know there's software out there that you can use to offer people choices. I usually do it verbally. I know all the programs and I know all the specifics about the programs. And usually when I share it with them verbally, lots of eye contact and things like that, I found that it works better for me, but it's perfectly okay, I think, if people to use the software, as long as they're communicating to people in a way to where they understand it. In the past, I've tried to show them things on paper, and I see confused looks on their faces if they're looking at charts or graph or numbers that they don't understand. And I found that it's been much easier for me to communicate with the people verbally.
I mean, I think probably one of the reasons why that works really well for you is because you're clearly a very articulate guy. I mean, and that, you know, your communication style is very clear, very engaging. And that's one of the things that I want everybody to kind of pull from this question and the answer from Dan is that, remember, he started with like creating the right environment for them to connect with him engaging them, him asking them questions about themselves, letting them talk, as he said, about their favorite subject, which is themselves. This is what gets people's guard to come down. They feel a connection with you. Trust starts to get built. And the commoditization of this experience, which we all know is an erroneous way to look at it, starts to dwindle away. But if you're not creating the connection, you're not bonding, you're not building trust, why would they think of anything other than the commodity that is the interest rate, right?
That's
so
right.
Dan, you've been in the L360 family for quite some time now. We've known each other for a long time. Tell us maybe a little bit about some of the things you've learned, and what you would say to somebody who's considering applying for the program.
Yeah, as far as what I've learned, there's too much to tell in a short period of time, everything that I've learned. But if there's one thing I could say, yeah, I closed 313 loans in 1 year. And I would say that that was one of the most miserable years of my life, because I really didn't have much of a life. It was nothing but business that year. And I was young at the time in the business, and it was all about numbers and how much I can close and how much money I can make and so on and so forth. And I think if you spend enough time in this business, you realize that can become your life if you're not careful. And you'll wake up one day and find out you don't really have the life that you want. And one of the things that I've learned in the program is how to create a life balance within this kind of business, which can be very stressful and very time consuming, and learning ways to create the life that you want in conjunction with having this kind of job and making this kind of money and so on and so forth. So that's probably the greatest thing that I've learned. Also, the collective brain power within the program itself is so amazing. I mean, there's just so much in one room at one time that you could learn. In fact, I wish we could spend more time together than we do get to spend, but that's truly amazing. And then the techniques and applying the techniques for learning in this program, it's nothing like you could get sitting at a seminar, and I've been to all of them in my lifetime. This is an immersive experience to which if you walk away from it with just 2 or 3 things, it's worth the price of admission, and I've certainly walked away from it with far more than that. And lastly, obviously, the camaraderie and the friendships that I've made, alone are worth it for me.
Boy, I can certainly attest to that too. I mean, it was stunning to me in Nashville at the last retreat that we had with the master's program. I looked around the room and I was like, wow, like this is a powerhouse of intelligence. And
yeah, it really was.
It was crazy. And we're all friends, which
Yeah.
makes it even better. It's not just smart people, it's smart people that you like. So, hey man, thanks a lot for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us, to share some of your wisdom. To all of you, thank you, Dan. And to all of you who tuned in to watch this video, thank you. And I hope that you have a great rest of your week. And we'll be back to you next week with another business and life tip for you. Have a great week, everyone.